So we just learned from a newly released draft executive order that Donald Trump wanted to direct the military to seize all voting machines in the country after he lost the election. Let's talk about the implications of this draft executive order and where things go from here. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So let's talk about this absurd, dangerous, deeply authoritarian draft executive order that Donald Trump fought mightily to try to hide from the House Select Committee and, by extension, from we the people. Here is how CNN reported it, quoting from a Politico story. Draft Trump executive order in December 2020 would have directed Pentagon to seize voting machines and hunt for fraud. So friends, if you get a minute, read this draft executive order for yourself. It's only about 2.5 pages long, and we're going to go through it in a minute. I'll also put a link to the document in the description of this video. You'll see that it has all these sort of quasi-legal buzzwords and phrases in it. It has lots of vaguely sinister allegations. And I think what sums it up pretty well is something that I heard an expert on presidential emergency powers say, somebody named Elizabeth Goitein of the Brennan Center for Justice, and I'm going to paraphrase Ms. Goitein. Basically, she said that this executive order has all of the authority and persuasiveness of a 4-year-old scribbling on the wall in crayon. I think that sums it up pretty well. But let's have a look at some of what's in this 2.5 page draft executive order from Donald Trump. It's dated December 16th, 2020. Now, I would note that that's just 2 days after Bill Barr announced that he would be resigning as Attorney General. It's just 2 days after those false, fraudulent, forged slates of electors from the battleground states came in. Some important data points there. It's titled Presidential Findings to Preserve, Collect, and Analyze National Security Information Regarding the 2020 General Election. And it starts, by the authority vested in me as President of the United States pursuant to the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, find that the forensic report of the Antrim County, Michigan voting machines, released December 13th, 2020, and other evidence submitted to me in support of this order provide probable cause sufficient to require action under the above cited, the authorities cited above because of evidence of international and foreign interference in the November 3rd, 2020 election. And let me just pause here for a moment, friends, because this Antrim County, Michigan report, if you want to learn more about it, and if you want to see for yourself how absurd this claim is that Donald Trump is going to base it on that report, I recommend a piece by Philip Bump in the Washington Post that was published on January 21st, and here is the title. Donald Trump's rationale for seizing voting machines was worse than you might have assumed. But let's go back to this executive order. So Donald Trump continues, the voting systems intentionally generate an enormously high number of ballot errors, he just summarily asserts. This leads to voter or election fraud. And he says, therefore, there's probable cause to find evidence of fraud and numerous malicious actions. You know, this is the kind of Donald Trump nonsensical word salad that we had to endure for 4 years while he was president. It continues, there is also probable cause. He keeps going to that standard. And friends, you probably know, though Donald Trump may not know, probable cause is an important concept in the law, but really not in emergency presidential executive orders. Probable cause is the standard by which the police are authorized to arrest somebody. Probable cause is the standard that judges apply when they are reviewing requests for arrest warrants or search warrants. So, for example, if a judge finds that there is evidence supporting the conclusion that there's probable cause to believe a crime has been committed and the person the police are seeking to arrest committed it, then the judge will issue an arrest warrant. So whoever drafted this executive order has some notion that, well, probable cause is an important legal catchphrase or buzzword, but not really in the context of emergency presidential orders. Nevertheless, there is probable cause to find that, get ready, folks, Dominion voting systems, Smartmatic, electronic systems and software, and Hart InterCivic, Clarity election night reporting, Edison Research, Sequoia, Cytel, and similar or related entities, agents, or assigns have the same flaws that were subject to foreign interference in the 2020 election in the United States. There is probable cause, there it is again, to find these systems bear the same crucial code, in quotes, features, making no sense, and defects that allowed the same outside and foreign interference in our elections, in which there is, get ready for it, probable cause to find votes were in fact altered and manipulated contrary to the will of the voters. Friends, this is nonsensical word salad. In this draft presidential executive order, he then makes sort of vaguely sinister references to China and Iran. So I'll spare you the rest of this nonsensical word salad. So let's jump right to the end, where Donald Trump orders some things. I hereby order, effective immediately, the Secretary of Defense shall seize, collect, retain, and analyze all machines, equipment, electronically stored information, and material records. He then goes on to say that his Secretary of Defense can use the National Guard as he sees fit. And his Secretary of Defense can use the Department of Homeland Security as he sees fit. Friends, this is the Secretary of Defense that Donald Trump installed after he lost the election. Remember, he fired Secretary of Defense Esper after he lost the election and installed this guy. Why? Well, it seems like to do precisely this: become a dictator. Then the very last paragraph of this draft executive order, Donald Trump says he's appointing a special counsel. Query whether he has the legal authority to do that, but he's appointing a special counsel to oversee this operation and institute all criminal and civil proceedings. And he then says he wants to make sure that the special counsel is provided all resources necessary to carry out her duties. There is no special counsel named here, but it looks like he's already got a pretty strong sense of who he wants. Sidney Powell. Remember how she was openly advocating for the military to seize all voting machines? Sidney Powell, who, friends, is now yet another important spoke in the hub and spoke conspiracy. And Donald Trump is the hub. And we're seeing more and more spokes every day. And yes, we're going to talk in the future about a hub and spoke conspiracy. It's a somewhat lesser used model of criminal conspiracy, not as typical as the sort of pyramid conspiracy. We're going to talk about all of this in the future. But it sure sounds like at the very end of this deeply treasonous, dictatorial piece of garbage draft executive order that he was contemplating his friend, Sidney Powell, being the special counsel who would oversee this and bring all criminal charges that were appropriate, meaning the ones Donald Trump wanted brought. Friends, you know, this must all be criminally investigated, indicted, prosecuted. These people must be held accountable. And we've talked a lot about how there aren't many outward indicators that the Department of Justice is criminally investigating all this, but I have to believe they are, and in fact, I do believe they are. Are they doing it in the conventional way, carpet bombing all these people, the Sidney Powells of the world, the John Eastmans, the Jeffrey Clarks, with grand jury subpoenas, such that we would all know there's a federal criminal investigation ongoing? No, they're not doing that. That doesn't mean they're not investigating. They may be, and perhaps they should be, investigating this in an unconventional way. It's an unconventional series of crimes. A president trying to kill our democracy, trying to become a dictator, trying to unconstitutionally retain the power of the presidency and deny the president-elect his rightful win. So I have to believe, and I do believe, that the Department of Justice is deep into all of this, not in ways we can see yet. But they have to be tackling this, because justice matters. And friends, as always, please stay tuned, please stay safe, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.